How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a fantastic day. In today's video I'm doing Progressive House from start to finish part 6. In the previous episode we worked on the drop chords and added some drop effects here. In this episode we're going to work on the drop drums, adding some layers, some claps and rides just to help the kick and the drop sound more full. And then we're going to be working on the drop leads, which is the main part. We're going to be using the melody that we created in part 1, so it's going to be a very good episode. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy it, and let's get straight into this. So as usual, I'm going to play through what we've made so far to refresh everyone's memory and to show off the drop chords and the drop effects that we added last episode. So without further ado, let's play what we have, and I hope you enjoy. So that is what we have so far. It's sounding very, very good. I'm really liking the sound of it. It's going to sound a lot better at the end of this episode once we add some more drums and add the drop leads in. I think by the end of this episode, we may have to bounce out the drums or the chorus just to save some CPU. Leads might make it go overboard, but we'll save that for now. We're going to make a new pattern and call this drop leads. And then we're going to go to pattern 1 and copy the MIDI notes for the melody. Hold Control, left click and drag, you can select the notes, then click Control C to copy, and then go over to the other pattern, click Control V to paste, and then I'm going to grab a simple silent for 1, and then get a simple sound. Very nice lead layer, that was called lead mance. It's going to sound pretty bad because there's no sidechain or effects, but this is what it sounds like now. That is the basic idea. So we're just going to go through, select some layers, and I'll show you what I come up with. So I've chosen 5 lead layers here. I'm going to go through and show you each one. I'm going to turn down the mix master chain because I've linked them all to one bus. Just because they're not mixed, it's going to be incredibly loud. So this is what they sound like all together. And I'd also like to point out, I've also changed the final section of the melody. I've made it go up to give it more of that emotional progressive house feel. So now it sounds like this towards the end. That sounds very nice. But now I'm going to go through each individual layer. So lead 1 is from Silent for 1, from again the stellar pack called Mance. I showed you this earlier. Next is the main layer. This is the main lead from Nexus EDM 5. It's called Lead Progressive House Lead 2. That adds that main power to the track and to the leads. Very basic lead, but it just adds that grit to the lead, gives it a more crispy high end. Lead 4 is also a basic lead, but it adds that attack to the leads. And lead 5 is again from a random EDM bank I have. I also pitched down the octaves. It originally sounded like this. I just pitched it down to the original octave, and this adds more body to the lead and gives it more of that mid-frequency range. as you can hear when I turn it off. But now we're going to go through the mixer and we're going to do some basic EQing on each sound and doing some basic mixing on each individual insert. Then we're going to go to the mix bus and do some big processing on there. The basic thing we always do is add a simple EQ on each sound to cut off any low end and low rumble into the lead sounds because we don't need it. As you can see here, I've boosted the 300 Hz range just to add a bit more body to the leads like I was mentioning before. So now I'm going to go into the actual plugin of Silent and turn down this white noise oscillator. It's getting quite messy in my opinion. We're going to turn the cutoff envelope up a tiny bit as well. Next, I'm going to go to these two leads 3 and 4. We're going to add a dimension expander. This is a free plugin. This just gives it more space and dimension in the sound, makes it sound more wide in the stereo field. And then next we're going to go into lead 5. I'm going to use S1 Imager from Waves. We're going to make this a slightly mono, just to keep the lead in the middle, just to make the lead sound like 1. And I'm going to go to lead 1 and do the opposite and make it more wide. So we've got some basic mixing on all the leads. So now we're going to go into the lead group bus and do some big processing on this and then make it sound huge with the reverb and all that stuff. So for the group bus, we have a simple mix chain here with an OTT on around a 29% depth with a 1.3 decibel out gain, taking down the low band, slightly on the mid band and slightly on the high band, but it gives it a nice boost. So if we solo all the effects here and I'll play the leads, just squeezes it together quite nicely. Next we have an EQ, just dipping off that very specific frequency here, the 793 Hz range. Next we have a Noveltech character, pretty basic, I've showed this in the past. Next, a Fruity Blood Overdrive with around a 29% mix level here. We've turned it down here instead of on the plugin. Then we have a glue compressor to squeeze all the sounds together. Another EQ boosting slightly on the high end and taking out some of the low end just in case all these plugins make a low rumble. We want to remove that. And to end up at a sausage fattener on a very, very, very subtle fatness and colour, but it still adds a bunch of power. And then we link this to a reverb bus, and on here we have a simple sidechain, reverb 2 and an EQ. But what I'm going to do quickly now, which I wanted to do on camera, is load up a Pro Q3. And we're going to do some frequency sweeps. So what we're going to do is create a very, very tight curve like this. We're going to hold the headphone. And we're going to solo out frequencies and we're going to dip them around -4 dB just to duck them out. If it's very, very harsh on the ears, we'll probably dip it by like -6. But we're going to go through and do some of these. That's quite a harsh one. We're going to minus that one by 4 dB. It's going to get quite harsh up in this area, I think. Yeah, so that G sharp 8 was quite resonant. So we're going to dip that by 1 more by 5. And we'll do 2 more because you don't want to do too many. Otherwise it will thin out the lead quite aggressively in the high end. Do that one by -6 as well. And then we'll do 1 more. And we'll go all the way up into the very, very end of the spectrum of the frequency range. We'll do this one here. We'll do that by So I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear this unless you're wearing proper mixing headphones, but if I solo it and take it on and off, you'll hear just a very, very subtle change in the very, very resonant frequencies of the lead. So this is without. You can just hear very, very subtly, it cleans it up a little bit. And then now we're going to play it with the actual track. I'm not sure how this is going to sound, but we'll see how it goes and let's see what it sounds like. Sounds pretty good. It's quite messy in the mix. We need to clean that up. We obviously need to do a bit more work on the reverb to make it stand out a bit more. I might do some reverb automation here and do an automation to fill this section in here. And that would be a nice effect. And then we also need to just work on mixing it into the actual track a little better. But we'll leave that for now. We're going to work on adding some drums here, fill up the kick a bit more, add some claps and some rides, and to fill up the whole drop a bit more. And yeah, we'll do that right now. So whilst I'm going to work on adding drums for the drop, I'm going to mute the drop leads just so it doesn't lag and it's not blaring in my ears. Because this isn't fully mixed in, I'm going to mute it for now. We're just going to go into my Progressive House folder and we're going to start adding some drums. The drum I really like to add is called the Nicky Romero signature clap ride. And then next I'm going to go into the Kashmir Volume 3, Friends of Kashmir VIP or something like that. Yeah, VIP Friends of Kashmir. And we're going to go into the Luis Torres one and we're going to get this one right here. Progressive House Noise Ride. And then last we're going to add these claps here because they're full of reverb. They should just stretch in time. Yeah, you just want to make sure you click on stretch. So these will fill out the mix very nicely. On this one we're going to turn up the out knob because you can see the end here. There's a little thing like that. So we're going to turn up the out knob like that. But now I'm going to mute everything and just keep the kick and the clap so we can get everything on volume levels right. Another thing I'd like to point out, which is quite important for Progressive House, as you can see right here, if we zoom in on both of these, the section right here isn't in line with the kick, which means the attack of the kick is clear. For these two, we're going to add sidechain, a very, very subtle sidechain, just to remove the first section around like here, around this section here. We're going to remove that so it doesn't interfere with the actual attack of the kick, just to give the kick more room to punch through. So that's a nice tip to keep in mind. But for now, this clap doesn't really need it, so we're going to leave it as it is. We're going to do the same for the ride, but on the ride we're going to add sidechain. Always make sure you turn down sounds like this because they're very, very loud and they can pierce your ears incredibly. On this one we'll use kickstart for now. You can just use the high chain, or you could even go as far as using the quick chain. And just turn down the mix level. And then next you want to add it with the clap to get the volume levels right with the clap. You see how it just gives it that extra high end, extra grit, just to fill out the mix a bit more. That's sounding good. And then finally we're going to add these claps in. But we'll keep it on 80%. And altogether they all sound like this. So that is it, pretty basic, just 3 drums. In the next episode we're going to add some more ear candy and more detail to the drums, more claps like this. We're going to add more effects like that in the drop just to fill it out and make it more detailed and more professional. And then we're also going to work on mixing the drop leads in a bit more. So we're going to bring these down a little bit and we're going to play through what we've made this episode, and I think we'll end it there because we've done a decent amount. We've done the drop leads and the drop drums, and then the next episode we'll do a bit more and then we'll just polish the drop leads. So we'll see what it sounds like. Hope you enjoy. Let's see what we've made. So yeah, I think in the next episode as well, we'll also bounce out some sounds just to save some CPU, because you can hear it make some crackles and it messes with the audio. So that is pretty much it. I think I'll leave this episode here. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I have 2 more video ideas. One of them, which is going to be next video, is a hardstyle melody tutorial on how to make a big, powerful hardstyle lead. That's going to be a good one. So yeah, I think we'll leave it here. So I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Take care. Have a wonderful day.